This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
Hello, Kentucky, and welcome to this final week before Thanksgiving. I'm Greg Williams, President and CEO of Building Healthy Relationships, also known as Love and Lordship, and you're listening to Kentucky's Voice on 970 WGTK, or possibly viewing on WBNA Channel 21, where faith, family, and freedom are the priorities. I'm excited to host today's program as we discuss cultural, legal, and spiritual issues that affect our Commonwealth and our nation, and how we as people of faith and conviction can respond with integrity and courage in truth and love. I know I mentioned it when I was on last month and at the beginning here again, but we're here. 1 week from Thanksgiving Eve. I hope and pray that things are coming together for you to have a wonderful Thanksgiving with family, friends, and loved ones that will carry you right into the most wonderful time of the year, Christmas, where we get to do it all again with those we love and cherish. I don't know about you, and I know that not everyone relishes this time of the year, but I hope you find a way to do so. And I have to confess that I'm a Thanksgiving, Christmas holiday nut or freak. Some people call me that. I'm just like a big boy, a big kid, and I enjoy and love everything about it. Even more so this year with 2 grandchildren to enjoy and another one on the way in 2026. I can't wait. My wife can't wait. We're very excited. We were just talking about it the other day, so I hope you can enjoy that. I would also like to thank any and all who prayed for me as I spoke at the National Summit for the Protect Child Health Coalition a couple of weekends back at American Family Association in Mississippi. It was an awesome event with absolutely great folks who are doing amazing work to protect marriage, families, children, and our culture from the horrific onslaught of the left and all that they're doing at all levels and in every sphere, local, state, national, even international, in the areas of government, education, media, social media, libraries, and much more. All the areas the left keeps trying to deceptively, and sometimes not so deceptively, push their destructive ideologies on our children, our families, and the culture. With that said, I hope to have many of those fighting in this battle for our culture, our youth, and our future on Kentucky's Voice in a series throughout next year to help you learn more about what's going on, what you can do, and how you can pray as we stand firm and fight against these agendas that have constantly failed and been proven to be nothing more than social experiments that use our children as of the last 2 or 3 generations as petri dishes. Question remains, who will have the conviction and courage wherever you are planted and in whatever opportunities you've been given to stand, or where you've been planted and whatever places that is, to share God's truth and his kingdom gospel across the Commonwealth, our nation, and beyond. We're calling all spiritual and cultural warriors to join us in this tremendous battle that impacts every part of our lives and every arena of our culture and society. We must stand strong. And that is what I love about Word Media and Kentucky's Voice and their willingness to do just that. Stand firm across the board in a culture that would have us remain silent. If you're interested in this mission, would like to financially support us, text KY Voice to 53555. Please stay tuned here on WGTK 970 AM or on WBNA Channel 21 for today's guests who have a lot to share about many of these very same issues and battles that we're facing right here in Kentucky. I promise you'll be informed, encouraged, and maybe even challenged a bit to stay alert and be involved to help spur on our legislators to bring about good bills and laws that contribute to flourishing families and communities and to a thriving Kentucky, as well as eliminate those bills that undermine our values and weaken or ruin our schools, our cities, our towns, and this great Commonwealth. I know you're going to be excited as you hear from our guest today, so please stay tuned because they've got a lot to share. And let me tell you, they're right in the thick of it, right on the front lines. You're going to hear from Representative Matt Lockett, who just happens to be in my district. You're going to hear more about it from him in just a little bit, as well as the executive director of the Family Foundation, Mr. David Walls. We've been on together a few times, and we're looking forward to this. So stay tuned as we come back with segment 1. We're going to start with Matt, and he's going to give us an update on all that's going on with regard to our Kentucky legislature.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Building healthy relationships, DBA Love and Lordship's vision and mission is to restore and help maintain a biblical worldview through healthy people, relationships, families, and communities that are foundational to thriving societies, governments, education, and all cultural influencers and outcomes. Today, we welcome a very special guest, Kentucky State Representative Matt Lockett of the 39th District, which just happens to be the district that I live in. And I'm so proud of Matt and all the work that he does. Matt, first of all, welcome. And thanks so much for joining us on Kentucky's Voice, as I know your schedule is busy these days.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
We look forward to hearing what you have to say. I know you're going to share with our audience what we can anticipate for the upcoming General Assembly here in the new year. Before we get into that, though, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I appreciate, again, the opportunity to be on. I'm married, been married for just a little over a year. So that's been fun. We got kids. Yeah, well, thank you. I've got 2 kids. I married a sweet woman who has 6. So together we have 8. And so that's been fun as well. But yeah, I'm in Nicholasville, Kentucky. So that's the 39th District, part of South Fayette as well. Just a pleasure to serve and be there.
Well, I hear a little bit in there that you have an affinity for families.
Yes, absolutely.
2 kids and now 8 kids.
That's right.
So that's great. Matt, we've known each other for probably at least 15 years or more. I followed a lot of what you shared. We've been on radio together and some other things, ups and downs, and as we all have. How do you think the Lord has used all of that to prepare you for where you are now as a state representative?
You know, I think God really uses everything in our life to take us to the next step, and to take us to the next step, whether that be to learn something new, whether that be to draw us closer to Him, whether it be to have the ability to help someone else. And in the dark times that we walk through, God is always there. And you know, I've discovered throughout life, as you know, when you're walking through those times and you're leaning into Christ at the same time, you can get through those tough and difficult times.
Yeah. And that does prepare us for whatever's next, as you alluded
It does.
to. I know that you went through, if I remember correctly, you went through a first run at this seat, and then came back, and on the second one you were successful. And there again, I think the Lord was at work in all that. When did you sense a calling or a drawing to public service? Because you're a pastor as well, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I actually went to seminary, and I've worked in a couple of different churches. That's actually what brought me back to Kentucky, my home state. And I think after doing that and really feeling like that's the direction that God wanted me to go, I think public service is a lot like being in ministry. I mean, it's the same, kind of overall concept. It's serving people. It's being the voice of people. It is being there in the gap and standing in the gap and being a voice of conservatism, to where everybody in the state doesn't get to go to Frankfurt and vote and talk about the issues in our state. But I believe that God has appointed myself and certain others as well to be that voice in Frankfurt.
Yeah, and I would agree with you, Matt. And I said at the beginning, you've done a great job. I really appreciate you taking bold stands on issues, because you compared pastoral work with public servant work. And I think the greatest thing in that is that everybody always agrees with you, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In both scenarios.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. Both people just line up to go, boy, you're doing a great job. Keep feeding us. Keep telling us what we
100%. Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Hey, I want to spend a little bit of time as we close out this segment. Something that I feel strongly about, and knowing you, I believe you do as well. And we just started it. So many people in our culture, and I would say this related to what you just said, Matt, even in our churches, forget that they truly are servants. Biblically speaking, A leader is one who serves. And so, what does it mean then in that context to be a public servant in the role of a legislator?
I think it's someone that serves the public, and it's someone that listens, and it's someone that says, I'm here to serve you. I'm here to represent you. It is not necessarily what I want. It is not necessarily what I'm going up and saying, this is what I'm going to do. It is truly representing people. And it's a lot of times when you get feedback, and I think you get feedback from maybe people that have been in elected office for a long time. One of the feedbacks that you get is, well, they don't listen to the public anymore. Yeah. And I think a true public servant does just that. They are seen. They are seen in the public. People know them. People know their heart. They may not agree with them all the time, but they are someone that can say, hey, you know what? He votes the way the district wants him to vote. He votes his conscience. He's got a spine. He's got a backbone. He's got a voice. And I think that's what it takes to be a public servant.
Wow. There's a lot in that. What you just said, there's a lot, especially those last couple of statements there. I would take that a step further and ask you this, because I don't think you or anyone else in any district won with 100% vote, right?
Correct.
So you win by a majority. Sometimes it's a lopsided majority. I think you've been privy to that a couple of times, but that doesn't mean that everybody, not even all those that voted for you, are always going to agree with every stand that you take. That's you right. Listen to them. So what happens when maybe the population changes, or you have even people that voted for you? You said, we want to listen to our constituents, but we also want to have a backbone and a spine and stay true to our conscience. What does that look like, Matt?
I think there are certain issues that for me are non-negotiable. And in other words, take abortion, for example. If the tides turned in our district and the people began to say, yes, we want abortion, we want you to vote for it, I'm not going to. And I think there is a stance that every legislator should take that says these are the issues that for me are non-negotiable. These are the ones that I will stand up for, that I will fight for, that I will be strong for. And if it takes losing an election because I stood up for what I believe was right, then so be it. Yeah. I'm going to stand up and fight for what I believe that God would have us do. And again, if it causes a loss, there are worse things that could happen.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree with you and applaud you in that, Matt. And I've seen you do that. And so I appreciate it. We're going to talk about some of those very issues that I think you just described, abortion being one of them and all that goes on with that. But there are others that we find our foundation, those who believe in Christ, our foundation in God's word. And regardless of what others think, we've got to stay grounded and rooted in that. So close us out with this, Matt. We got a couple minutes here in this first segment. I've been asked to run for office a couple of times. And one of the things I said to them—
Don't run against me, Greg.
No, I wouldn't do that. You're doing a great job. No, you'd win anyway, so I'm not going to do that.
I'm kidding.
But I would say to them, the people that ask, first of all, I'm a statesman and not a politician. I'm not good at compromise, and I think you have to have a certain amount of that. There's certain areas I could. So what is the difference between a politician, which we have a whole lot of, and a statesman, which we have very few of these days?
Yeah, and I think everybody would know the answer to that and maybe not be able to verbalize it, but someone, when you see them, you can say that guy or gal, that's a statesman. Or when you see someone that it feels like they're in it for themselves, they're in it for the personal praise or glory or the, whatever they perceive as the benefits, that's the politician. And one feels good, the statesman feels good and says, yes, that's the person that we can coalesce behind, that can bring everybody together. The other one is kind of like, no, I kind of want to take a shower every time I shake their hand. I mean, and so to me, that's the difference.
Yeah, and I think there's a scriptural text that aligns with that. It says that we can be carried away by every wind of doctrine. So if the winds shift, you're going to see politicians shift with it because it will keep their votes up, keep their money coming in for campaigns or whatever else goes on with that. Whereas a statesman, well, you said it earlier, Matt, my conscience, and there are certain things in my conscience that I will not compromise on. And so we're gonna spend a little more time talking about some of those things, and then we're going to have a guest join us a little later on that you and I both know, where we're going to hear some things from that side as well, not from the opposite side, but what's it look like representing people in a different way. So I look forward to more of that. I just say to anyone out there, join us, text your questions or comments to 502-571-0970. And again, if you believe in the mission and would like to financially support us, text KY Voice, that's KYVOICE, to 53555. KY Voice to 53555.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Well, the bad part about it is that we, as a culture, we have people that want to begin early with our children, with indoctrination, with things like pornography and access to pornography and other issues as well. But when we understand that this starts at such a young age, sometimes even unbeknownst to parents, unbeknownst to the children, the
even
first
by
time
design,
themselves.
Even by design, it's not known to parents.
And so I always shudder to think that the state has to step in as a protection mode, but in this case, we do.
Thank you. All right, welcome back. And with that video clip as an intro to this segment, we welcome back Representative Matt Lockett here from the Kentucky Legislature. Welcome back, Matt.
Thank you.
You know, that short but poignant clip spoke to your work on an issue that has troubled our families, our children, and our culture for years. And it's gotten worse. Internet has made it so. And that is pornography. You sponsored a bill last session that, when it passed, brought about some great results. Tell us about HB or House Bill 278.
Yeah, so that particular bill started out in conglomeration with the Attorney General's office. Worked very closely with them to really put together a bill that strengthened penalties on abuses to children. There's a lot of stuff in the bill, things like prohibiting superintendents from hiring anyone on the sex offender list, increasing penalties for tons of different crimes against children. So as that bill was going through, I was approached by Senator Jay Williams, who said, "Hey, let's take a look at this, putting this into your bill as well." And that was the age verification on the pornography websites. And so as we went through, really began to see how this was a very important issue. And as I said on the clip, Greg, you know, one of the things, even outside of this bill, but one of the things that really saddened me is the thought that the state has to step in to protect our children against predators and against the pornography on the internet. I mean, think about that. You know, 10, 15 years ago, these weren't issues that we were thinking about, that we had to protect our kids from, but now we do. And so we don't take that lightly. This particular bill stepped in and said, if you're going to access a pornography website, then you've got to provide age verification. It's a simple bill, but you would be amazed. Well, you probably wouldn't be, but but a lot of people would be amazed at the pushback that we got. And honestly, Greg, that I still get. I still get people emailing me saying this bill is ridiculous. I want to be able to access this without an ID. But what's happened that we've seen in Kentucky, some of these large players like Pornhub, instead of just abiding by the law, they have blocked all access to their site in Kentucky, which, praise the Lord, is a great great thing.
Yeah, which tells you something. I was going to mention that. I figured you would, but Pornhub, I believe, is the largest provider of pornography in the world.
That's correct. Yes.
And it happened I know it happened in Texas and several other states that passed similar laws. So I've said immediately after that, publicly and privately, I said to people, there's what God's word calls the law to do, to reward those who are doing good and to eliminate or punish those things that are doing evil. And when that law passed, Matt, that you were very bold on, appreciate it again, Pornhub immediately shut down. And that was great. I don't know if you know this, Matt, but before I say this, I'm going to come back to this. Text your questions or comments to 502-571-0970. If you believe in the mission, would like to financially support, text KY Voice, KYVOICE to 53555. Matt, I don't know if you are aware of this, but I'd like to make you aware, and we'll probably talk more about it with you and David, who's going to join us in the next segment. There are databases that literally states pay for. I don't know what the amount is. My guess is the amount here would be maybe $1 million in Kentucky. That's just a guess. To have databases like EBSCO and Gale go directly into the public libraries and into the school libraries, and within those databases, they make money by advertising for pornography blatantly, all kinds of pornography, gambling, vaping, marijuana, and on. And it goes directly to the kids.
Yes.
And so that's something we've got to address as well. What would you say to that?
Well, I would say that I am aware of that, and that is why in an upcoming bill this coming session that I'm sponsoring, currently working on, currently being drafted. It's an age verification for social media. Also includes a prohibition on any type of advertising to children, whether it's social media, whether it's other websites. Completely bans that because honestly, that's how a lot of these things get started, because kids are online at an early age. Parents don't always know exactly what they're looking at. And so these ads begin to bombard them, and curious minds want to know. And so they go and look at this website, that website. And so part of the bill does ban those advertisements.
Well, and the algorithms within those are designed to literally draw them in.
Yes.
We know that now. Video gaming, pornography, a variety of other things. Not all of those are bad necessarily, but pornography and the things like that are, and they are literally designed in their construction, in the algorithms, to get their attention and then draw them in. So I really appreciate, again, you work on that. Now, I do understand, Matt, you can explain a little more to our listeners and myself. The age verification on social media as a whole is going to be pretty difficult because of free speech issues, I would imagine, right?
Well, I believe in how we are wording it, that it's not going to be, and I'll tell you why. Most social media companies, at least the large ones, here you're thinking of Meta and Google, those types of larger companies. They are already within a matter of seconds, they know to the year of how old that user happens to be. I mean, it's amazing the way that this technology works. That's where those ads come from. Yeah, and so if they detect a 12-year-old is on Facebook currently, they can begin to send ads in that feed to that 12-year-old. So what the bill does, the bill says using their existing technology, that if they detect a minor, they have to kick them off of that platform. So it's not adding anything new. Now there is a provision that says if the parent says no, it's okay for little Johnny at 12 years old to be on Facebook, that's up to the parent.
Right.
I would say that's probably a bad choice, but that's up to the parent. So there are provisions that allow that parent to override that provision.
Yeah, that's excellent. I know I've seen some model legislation along those lines. So you guys are picking up on that and building on that for Kentucky. So that's excellent. Now, I know you are the co-chairing the Kentucky MAHA, or Make America Healthy Again task force. So let's talk a little bit about that, and then we'll pick back up on that and some related issues when we get back into the next segment. But what does that entail for you?
So, we've looked at a lot of different issues. Kentuckians, by and large, are extremely unhealthy. We have high rates of diabetes. We have high rates of heart disease, and we've got to get to the bottom of this. And so, through our research, through our discussions, that it means how can we move forward and keep Kentuckians healthier.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that when David Walls, Executive Director of the Family Foundation, joins us. Several of those kinds of issues. So thank you for that, Matt. Join us. Text questions or comments to 502-571-0970. If you believe in the mission, like to financially support, text KY Voice, KYVOICE to 53555.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back, and to our listening or viewing audiences, however you're joining us, as we continue to discuss key issues coming up in the 2026 Kentucky General Assembly. As we do so, I'd like to welcome both our good friend, mine and Matt's, David Walls, Executive Director of the Family Foundation. Welcome, David.
Greg, good to be with you.
Yeah, again, thanks, man. Matt, welcome back to you. You guys are going to two heads are better than one, they say. So that's why we got both of you on. We've done this before, gentlemen, a few times. So I certainly appreciate the work that both of you do in your respective roles. Matt, we talked about several issues before. I'm going to ask David to kick off this segment with what are some priority issues from a marriage and family, the Family Foundation standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say I heard a little bit of y'all's previous conversation, and we are strongly in support of what I know Representative Lockett and others are leading on to continue to take the next steps to protect our kids online as it relates to social media and so forth. That is going to be one of the key issues that the Family Foundation is going to be communicating on and thinks that is incredibly important to address. But Greg, I'll bring up a few others, and a couple of these issues are issues from the last legislative session that we've worked on. One of them is the continued need to strengthen our religious freedom protections. Look, we foundationally believe, our founders believed there was a reason why religious freedom is our first freedom protected in the First Amendment, and there has been a need to strengthen some of the enforcement mechanisms and definitions of Kentucky's existing religious freedom statutes. And so that's going to be an issue that we're going to continue to work on. If Kentuckians, if we don't have the ability to be assured that our first and most foundational freedom is protected under the law, there's not a whole lot else that we can count on from that perspective. And then another issue that I'll mention off the top, Greg, is the issue of medical conscience. The need to protect our healthcare professionals so that they can do the job that they've been called to do no harm, without fear of being forced to participate or be compelled to speak in ways that are simply not true or violate their conscience. And so this is an incredibly important issue from a conscience perspective, but I would say it's also an incredibly important issue from a recruitment standpoint of saying, look, we want to have our medical professionals, and particularly we want more Christians to be able to move forward in the medical fields, knowing that they're going to be able to practice medicine in accordance with their conscience. Yeah. And so this has been an issue that's been debated and discussed, made very significant progress last session with Senator Donald Douglas carrying legislation that got out of the Senate, didn't quite get across the finish line in the House, but something that I know Representative Lockett has been supportive of, and so many others. So those are two issues, and I would say they're somewhat related, relating to ensuring that we have the ability in Kentucky to exercise our God-given rights of conscience and religious freedom.
Well, Matt, he mentioned that you're on board with that. Where is the caucus or the House on that, would you say, at this point? I know you can't speak for everybody, but where would you say generally?
Yeah, I can't speak for everybody, but like David said, it got across the line in the Senate, got over to the House. I was actually going to carry that bill on the House floor. I did a lot of studying for that, and a lot of prep, and it did not get called. And so the last day of session, I was still pushing for that to get across the finish line. It still did not. I think that probably the vast majority of our caucus would support that. I think that's an issue that we see as important to allow our medical professionals to be able to practice medicine along with their conscience, and not force them to have to do a procedure, immunization, whatever the case may be, that they do not agree with. And so I think it's very important, and something that I will certainly be pushing this session as well.
Awesome. That's great. Now, remember, if you got a text or question, comment 502-571-0970. Text the question or comments there. If you believe in the mission, would like to financially support us, text KYVOICE, KY voice to 53555. Now, there's been a lot of these ongoing issues. One of them is repealing the sales and use tax for churches, women's sports. Matt, where are we on some of those issues? Because those are culture-changing issues as well.
Yeah, I think the women's sports, of course, we did pass the ban for that to disallow males in women's sports. I think we can go a step further. I think we are looking at going beyond that. We've had issues with, of course, males, transgender males walking into restrooms, public restrooms of not their given sex. I think there's a lot of things there, a lot of protections that we need to go a step further. And I believe, again, our caucus, I think, is ready to do those.
Yeah. What do you see on that, David? Some of those issues to strengthen that?
No, I think absolutely that we need to be taking the next step and saying, what can we do to protect the women and girls of this Commonwealth? What Representative Lockett was mentioning was, Exhibit A, where you had at the Kentucky Capitol, one of the last days of the session, you had a very large man in a sheer white dress that was going into the women's restroom. There were young children in there, is my understanding, young girls. Mm-hmm. But that's just an example of the reality that we need to define clearly in state law what biological sex is, what a man is, what a woman is. And this has implications as it relates to not just bathrooms, but all kinds of facilities, dorm facilities, any space that should be separated so that there's privacy and dignity to be had. We should have a common sense policy, common sense law. And so I know there has been Representative Bill Wesley, who was the legislator who courageously confronted this man at the Capitol. He has indicated his desire to file legislation related to this. I know State Senator Lindsey Tishner has previously filed legislation, a Women's Privacy Act that's related to this. And then just a couple months ago, and I believe Representative Lockett, I may have seen him at this event, University of Kentucky's Riley Gaines, champion for saving women's sports, and for really has become just an outspoken Christian conservative voice that we're so thankful for. She has been also helping lead the charge to say, look, states need to take the next step to ensure that our women and girls are protected with these common sense policies that are not. This isn't controversial. No. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, in some of these legislative battles, those on the left, those in the media can try to make these issues sound controversial. But I guarantee you, if you were to ask the average Kentuckian, do you think that it would be appropriate for the state to ensure that at their own facilities, at the state capitol, that men's restrooms are for men and women's restrooms are for women? That would be a broadly supported position. And so I think I'm encouraged to hear that this is something that's being discussed.
Well, and
Greg, I would say,
go ahead.
I would say too, there's a couple more issues along with that as well that are going into legislation this session. One deals with actual physical school buildings, whether it is designating that every school building, K through 12, and at the post-secondary level, that those restrooms have to be designated men or women, and they cannot allow one or the other to go into the other one. There's also what will go into a bill as well, is to ban our K through 12 schools from participating across state lines with any other school that allows males to participate in female sports as well.
Wow. So what I hear you guys saying, and we've talked about this before, is if we're going to protect women, which is at the heart of this, we got to protect women's spaces.
100%.
Right?
Yes.
You got to protect the court, the field, the bathroom, the locker room, the school, the Capitol. Those places that are designated for women need to be protected and set aside. You all know this. Hopefully our audience does, but that's why we're a republic in our nation, because there is a rule of law, and we need those laws to help us understand where the boundaries are, and people have gotten off that. Now, I do think this, as we close this out, tell me what you both think quickly. We got a couple minutes, but if we're running into this over and over again, we're now seeing, though, that all the stuff that they used to support this is falling apart, which we knew it would. So they're losing not only ground, but support and therefore influence. Where do you see that going, Matt?
The support, I mean, I think you're right. I think we see that all across the Commonwealth. And I think that's the reason why people are leaving the Democrat Party in droves, is because they see some of these ideas and some of these policies that they are pushing for. And it's just not what the people of the Commonwealth want. We, by and large, are conservative as a state, and we want conservative-minded policies and policies that uphold the rule of law, and that, as you said, protect our women in the spaces that they are in. It's sad that government has to do that it's not common sense that only a female can enter into a female restroom, but here we are. And we will certainly rise to the challenge and make sure that we protect our citizens.
Yeah. David, any thoughts on that?
I agree wholeheartedly. Look, we have to root this out, this ideology out at its core. Yeah. Obviously, we've got to take action to protect women and to create sanity as it relates to our facilities and the buildings that the government has responsibility for. But even deeper than this is a war on the hearts and minds of the next generation. When we're talking about, creating schools that eliminate boys and girls restrooms, this is about a warped ideology that is seeking to influence the next generation and to cause them to question the most creational, foundational truths about who they are. And so this is why this is so vitally important from a public policy, but also just from a prophetic voice to speak against this.
Absolutely. Now, we're going to hear more from both Matt and Representative Lockett and David Walls in our last segment here on these issues, along with abortion pills and trafficking, euthanasia, maybe IVF. We may not get to all those, but we're going to talk about those. So stay tuned. Again, if you like us and would like to financially support, text Kentucky Voice, KY Voice, to 53555.
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KY Voice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, guys, thanks for joining us again, whether you're listening on radio or viewing on TV. We thank you for that as we discuss many of the issues that are and will be affecting us as Kentuckians in the upcoming General Assembly. We welcome back Representative Matt Lockett and Executive Director of Family Foundation, Mr. David Walls. Again, if you have a question, text to 502-571-0970. If you believe in the mission, would like to financially support, text KY Voice to 53555. Matt, David, welcome back. I want to jump in. I left this off kind of general so you guys could go with what you want. I know that one of the things that have been hot and heavy the last few months and leading into the assembly is this issue of abortion pills, which are crossing state lines, and trafficking, whether it's the pills or the minors. Matt, what have you been hearing on that?
So this past week, we have been in kind of caucus meetings and caucus retreat, and these are a couple of the issues that we've discussed. We are just in the process of talking about some sort of legislation that would combat the abortion pill and what that looks like, those coming across state lines, how do you intercept those? How do you, kind of all of that kind of logistics, if you will. We know that those are extremely easy to obtain. You can call a phone number, tell them whatever age you want to tell them. They don't really care as long as you've got a credit card and can pay for them. They will ship them to you. But these are pills that, of course, not just have the potential or do take a human life. These are pills that can do harm, immeasurable harm to the female body. And so this is not just an abortion pill. This is a pill that does a lot of harm. And so this is one that we are very interested in, and one that we want to make sure and do what is best for Kentuckians. The issue now is how to do that in the best way.
Yeah. And David, I want to get your thoughts, but I understand that they are in Eastern Kentucky. They've got ads in the stores and things like that about how they can get them. And also, we now know with the research that the damage is, as you say oftentimes, David, I want to get you to share a little bit on this. There's always one that's damaged and destroyed, and that's the baby, and then it also harms the mother. Give us your thoughts on that, David.
No, I mean, this is the next phase of the battle to protect life. With the continued proliferation of the abortion death pill, and I really think that's what we should start calling it. Yeah. It is a pill designed to kill an unborn child, and as more research continues to come out, and as Representative Lockett mentioned, it does tremendous harm to the mother. There was a recent study analysis that was done that showed something to the effect that the serious medical complications to the mother taking the abortion death pill is something on the order of 22 times higher than what the FDA currently says. Yeah. And so this is where, again, we have an opportunity as we're speaking into this issue to push back against the lies and deceptions of the other side. The abortion industry is designed from the ground up to profit off of killing preborn children. But in spite of their mantra of women's rights and saying they're for women, the reality is now they're promoting an incredibly dangerous death pill that puts the lives and certainly the bodily harm of women at risk each and every day. Yeah. And so this is an incredibly complex issue. It's not just coming across state lines. We've seen reports of a lot of these pills are being manufactured overseas. And there was a recent study that showed that something like 88% of one of the largest manufacturers of these pills, they are being shipped into pro-life states like Kentucky and other states. So the abortion industry knows that this is an effective way to get around some of the pro-life laws, the great pro-life work that has been done here in Kentucky and some other states. And so then we need to think creatively, and we need to think about how can we do everything and we can from an enforcement perspective I know there's been a lot of conversations about the right approach. The state of Texas recently passed a very strong bill on on this topic. Pro-life states are looking at this issue, but for the sake of continuing to save lives and for the sake of protecting mothers in the Commonwealth, we need to have this conversation and move forward in acting.
Well, and I would say, I don't want to speak for you, David, but I think you would certainly agree with me to say we're appreciative of Matt and all those in the legislature that are taking this up.
Absolutely.
Because it is, we don't know. Matter of fact, there is evidence, there is proof that sometimes, I don't know the percentages or what, but there's proof that there's some of these pills are laced with other things even. So it's not even just the abortion pill. We know that traffickers, even doing generally doing illegal drugs, will, and our good friend Adia Worcester says they ought to put it on the register. In other words, they ought to regulate these pills like they do a lot of others with all the side effects, so that we bring back in the doctors and they have to see a doctor and they have to be regulated in various ways. So, yeah.
And if I can add too, this is another area where we need a federal action and a federal voice on this as well.
Yeah.
While we're thankful for some of the things the Trump administration has done, thankful that the FDA had announced they were going to take a look at mifepristone. The reality was the FDA also just also approved a generic version of it, and much of what has led to the proliferation of this pill goes back to the Biden administration, where they essentially said, we're going to remove every protection that was in place in terms of a mother having to actually physically see a doctor, and some of these protections that were in place, those were all done away with.
Yes.
So essentially, it's the wild, wild west, and so we need the Trump administration to step back in. Look, we would join a call and have joined calls to say this abortion death pill should never have been approved to begin with.
Right.
But we need voices in Washington, D.C. We need our congressmen to be speaking up about this issue as well. There's not going to be a one approach that's going to fix this. It's going to take consistent voices at every level of government saying we're going to do what we can to protect lives and to protect moms.
Yeah, and there again, we thank Matt, you and your cohorts there in the Kentucky legislature that are taking this up. Now, Matt, we mentioned this earlier. We haven't said a whole lot, but it comes back in here, and I don't know. I know it's connected. I don't know how connected it is yet in the legislature, but you're the co-chair of the MAHA, or Make America Healthy Again, for Kentucky. Have you heard conversations? Because I know a lot of that is big food, big pharma, and trying to bring those under control. There's a lot of money pushing back on that. But what about this issue right here, abortion pills and trafficking? How does that fit in, or do you think it should with MAHA?
It really has not, in terms of our conversations in that committee. It has not. Not saying it shouldn't, but in terms of the time that we've had, that hasn't been part of the conversation.
Yeah. Well, I would hope to see that, because of the fact that it is a pharmaceutical, right? At this point, a legally prescribed drug, and that's about all it is, because as we've said, the regulations are gone. Let me flip the other side as we kind of close out today's program. This is a rising thing as well. We're hearing it in Canada. It's all over there. It's been over Europe. It's here now in several states, and it's going to be coming to Kentucky if it's not already here. But the whole idea of euthanasia and assisted suicide, Matt, what are you hearing, and what's going on with regard to that?
Yeah, and I have not heard a lot. I would say probably that I believe our caucus, as well as myself. I believe being pro-life is not just pro-life at birth. It is pro-life from birth all the way to the end of natural death. Yeah. And natural death is when God calls us home on his timing, through the time that he sees fit. It is not the time that we say it's time for me to go. And so, I think if we're really going to be pro-life and really going to take that pro-life stance, then we would take the stance that euthanasia, assisted suicide, is not something that is in God's plan. And so we have to, as believers, we have to stand against that as well.
Yeah, well said, Matt, well said. I would throw two other things in here that are related to this, and I know there may not be a lot of discussion, but again, just getting your all's thoughts because of who you are. The whole idea of organ donation connected with euthanasia and assisted suicide, as well as IVF and surrogacy connected with embryos and abortion and those kind of things. David, what would be your thoughts on those?
Look, we are entering into a time and an era where we are taking on things that are the Lord's purview at a broad level. Yeah. And when thinking about the conversation just on euthanasia, look, that is on our doorstep.
Yes,
with the states, with what Illinois is looking at doing, other states. The reality is we're in a battle over a culture of life versus a culture of death. Yeah. And all those things you mentioned. One of the big fears is once you start going down this path, it incentivizes government in the most perverse ways possible, because as we're seeing, healthcare costs skyrocket and all these things, Canada, we've seen this in Canada where they are literally now as a nation committing suicide. And part of the conversation is, well, it sure is a lot easier and more cost-effective right. to encourage someone to take their life.
And they can make money off their organs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They're redefining death like they redefined life.
Right. And so, and then similarly, as it relates to the conversation on IVF, money is such a big part of that as well. And so, look, I think there are the need to start having some of these conversations, even if we think these things haven't completely, come into the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I know there was a interim hearing in the last week where Representative Nancy Tate, who chairs the pro-life caucus in the House, and our friend Adia Wushner got to talk about some of these issues and start the conversation on some of these. And I think we need to do that.
Yeah. And so, and Matt, I sure appreciate what you said with regard to, we haven't seen a lot of it yet, but your conscience and your faith guides you. And we've seen that before. We trust that. So very quickly, how can the audience get a hold of you, Matt?
Well, they can always send an email to matt.lockett@kylegislature.gov. Okay. I would love to hear from anyone. And certainly I would ask and covet prayers from all of those that are listening as well.
David, very quickly.
Yeah, folks can connect with us at KentuckyFamily.org, and we'll be covering and encouraging folks to engage in the upcoming legislative session. And we encourage folks to be praying for our legislators.
Yes, praying for you, Matt, and for all of them. Thank you, Representative Matt Lockett and David Walls of the Family Foundation, for joining us and giving us some excellent insights on issues that affect Kentucky and all of us. I know I'm not alone when I say I greatly appreciate the work that both of you do from both a Christian and conservative perspective, that I know neither of you are ashamed to be called both. I hope today's program has encouraged and or challenged you to stay in or join that fight as there is much at stake. I'm Greg Williams, and thanks for joining me as you're listening or viewing Kentucky's Voice. Make it a great day, and God bless in the love and lordship of Christ.